Hey, good morning, everyone. Jim Bull coming back at you Thursday morning from the office. Yeah, how about that? So I like it outside in nature much better, but I also like to do this first thing in the morning. It gets my day started right and should help you with your day too, to just spend some time meditating on God's Word and checking out the good stuff and getting it in before the day gets a chance to kick you. So anyhow, we're going to go back to the NLT, New Living Translation, today, because I'm back where I can do that and have access to that, because I just think it's a little more easier in today's society to understand. It doesn't water anything down, but it just little easier terms, even more so than the NIV. But hey, pick the one you like. There's all kind of versions available out there. So anyhow, interpretation. The Bible is interpretation. I hope that pray to God that you interpret it the way He wants you to. So, Proverbs chapter 25. We are winding down on our 31-day challenge here. We have just a few more days to go. It's been fun, and I think I have another project I'm looking at for afterwards. Might take a little bit of a break over Labor Day, but anyhow, here we go. Proverbs 25, New Living Translation. It says, more Proverbs of Solomon. These are more Proverbs of Solomon, collected by the advisors of King Hezekiah of Judah. Don't know if I said his name right. It is God's privilege to conceal things, and the king's privilege to discover them. So in my footnotes it says 25:2. It says, to conceal a matter, God gets glory because man cannot understand his universe or the way he rules it. And isn't that the truth? We talked about this earlier. The little boy Grant. I need to get an update on him. I'll do that later today and see how things are going for Grant. We just don't understand why things like that happen, but we can't, because God is the Almighty, the Creator. We can't create a universe either. So He does it His way, and it's best for us. So, and it's sometimes doesn't always seem that way. I guess again, I've never had any huge tragedies in my life, but I can look back on circumstances where things happen and say, wow, okay, this is why. So anyhow, moving on. Verse 3 says, no one can comprehend the height of heaven, the depth of the earth, or all that goes on in the king's mind. And that just reinforces what we just said. We're only human. 4, remove the impurities from silver, and the sterling will be ready for the silversmith. Get rid of the junk and we'll be better. Remove the wicked from the king's court, and his reign will be made secure by justice. It says the same thing 2 different ways. Okay. Don't demand an audience with the king or push for a place among the great. It's better to wait for an invitation to the head table than to be sent away in public disgrace just because you've seen something. Work hard. You'll get your due when it's time. I get from that. Don't demand anything. It'll come. Verse 8, don't be in a hurry to go to court, for what will you do in the end if your neighbor deals you a shameful defeat? We're always ready to jump into things. Verse 9 says, when arguing with your neighbor, don't betray another person's secret. And I'll go back to 8 there. One of my son's hockey coaches taught us the 24-hour rule. Right away, we're always ready to jump or react. Give it some time, think it out, pray about it, get the answers you need before you go to court. Verse 10 says, others may accuse you of gossip, and you will never regain your good reputation. Isn't it so? Speak the truth about everything. You don't have to worry about it. And gossip, that doesn't lead to anything good. Timely advice is lovely, like golden apples in a silver basket. To one who listens, valid criticism is like a gold earring or other jewelry. Trustworthy messengers refresh like snow in the summer. They revive the spirit of their employer. Snow in the summer, verse 13, could be refreshing to some, could be to others. The footnotes say it's like probably a drink cooled by snow from the mountains. So back in the day when they wrote Proverbs, there was no refrigeration. Probably there was no ice, so they had to find ways to keep things cool. Here you go. Verse 14 says, a person who promises a gift but doesn't give it is like clouds and wind that bring no rain. Indian giver was the term we used when we were kids growing up. A person who promises something and doesn't give it is like clouds and wind that bring no rain. I was talking to, again, I'll go back to this Verizon dude yesterday. He was talking about how he was trying to quit smoking. I told him that I did when my son was going from 5th grade to 6th, or from 5 to 6, kindergarten to 1st grade. He went to school and they taught kids that, hey, you're going to die if you smoke. And he comes home freaking out. Mom, Dad, you got to quit smoking. And I made a promise to my son that by the time he was 6, I would quit smoking. And I kept that promise. A couple weeks in, I almost broke down. I can't do this, man. I just can't do this. But I thought to myself, if I break this promise to my son, how will he ever trust me ever again in his lifetime? So promises became a really big thing in our family. We taught our children, don't promise anybody anything unless you intend to follow through, and that comes from God. 15 says, patience can persuade a prince, and soft speech can break bones. Patience can persuade a prince, and soft speech can break bones. Arguments don't win anything, and we talked about this chapters ago, how you can only be an example. You can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do or until they're ready to do it. All you can provide is the information and set the example for something they may want to follow. Do you like honey? Don't eat too much or it will make you sick. Don't overindulge in anything, even though it may seem good at first. Don't visit your neighbors too often or you will wear out your welcome. Very simple. And that's what I like about the NLT. It puts it out there that we can understand. At least me. Maybe you guys understand other versions of the Bible. I'm not a literary genius by any means, so I'm choosing this one because it's easier for me. Anyhow, telling lies about others is as harmful as hitting them with an axe, wounding them with a sword, or shooting them with a sharp arrow. Again, it's just right to the point. Telling lies is like hitting someone over the head with an axe. Putting confidence in an unreliable person in times of trouble is like chewing with a broken tooth or walking on a lame foot. Singing cheerful songs to a person with a heavy heart is like taking someone's coat in cold weather or pouring vinegar in a wound. And I reflected on that for a little bit. I always try and, someone's down, I'm on like, ah, trying to get them back up. But maybe that's wrong. Maybe they need time to work it out. Maybe getting all up there isn't the answer. So I used the ain't instead of singing cheerful songs to a person with a heavy heart is like taking someone's coat in cold weather. If your enemy, here's a big one I've always struggled with, but it's true, and we need to do it because we'll get much further ahead. If your enemies are hungry, give them food to eat. If they are thirsty, give them water to drink. I've always been like, no way, man. Like, how are we gonna get them? And that's that revenge thing we talked about yesterday. And if you do this to people, if you still love them, even though you're ticked off at them, you don't like what they did or what they're doing, if you still love them, they're gonna do a check on that and say, what's up with that dude? I just tried to frazzle him big time, and it didn't even affect him at all. Be above it. Be above that. Don't go there to their level. You will heap burning coals of shame on your heads, and the Lord will reward. Okay, didn't finish it. Again, pretty easy to understand. If your enemies are hungry, give them food to eat. If they are thirsty, give them water to drink. You will heap burning coals of shame on their heads, and the Lord will reward you. You got Jim Bull's version, you got the Lord's. I recommend you follow the Lord's. As surely as a north wind brings rain, so as a gossiping tongue causes anger. It's better to live alone in the corner of an attic than with a quarrelsome wife in a lonely home. We talked about that, reinforcing that chapters ago again. Good news from far away is like cold water to the thirsty. Again, cold water was a major perk back in the day when Proverbs was written. They built pyramids. I guess they could figure out how to make things cold. But anyhow, good news from far away is like cold water to the thirsty. If the godly give in to the wicked, it's like polluting a fountain or muddying a spring. Don't go down to those levels. It's not good to eat too much honey, and it's not good to seek honors for yourself. So they're relating to overindulging to, look at me. Verse 28, short one, finishes up the chapter. A person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. Isn't that the truth? Person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. Been there a lot in the past. Most recent deal yesterday with the phone, it's like, oh, I went 9 hours without a phone. Woo! It's funny, I hear my kids say, I can't leave. I can't go somewhere. My phone's not working. How about some of y'all when we were little, we had to run to the neighbor's house if we wanted to talk to them and beat on their door and hope they were there and hope their parents let us talk to them. Okay? Yesterday. Oh, all right, settle down, Jim. It's going to be all right. You don't have a phone. But what if, and like no one's, all day, I went 9 hours without a phone, and would you believe that no one's head exploded? Verse 28. Like a city whose walls are broken down is a man who lacks self-control. Just had to get a handle on things, man, and that was an easy example. There's I'll go back to Grant. How do you use self-control there, or even if someone does something to harm you or your family, your daughter gets hurt, major test there, but you have to, the message is rely on the Lord. Go to the Lord for everything first. I talked about the 24-hour rule earlier. Just pray, talk it out with God. He'll work you through it. So there you go, a short one today, back in the office, a little refreshed, cool, and we have many miles to travel today, not on the road, but there's a lot of work to get done. So I got to get out of here. Love y'all. Have a great one, and I'll see you tomorrow.